All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Christopher Dagger over here off Bishop Street for another podcast session, episode number 6 with a good pal here, Stathi Fokas. Stathi, would you like to say like how we actually pronounce the full name to start this off like as awkwardly as possible? So
Yeah, so it's actually Evstathios Fokas. That's the Greek pronunciation. But I mean, look, you can say Stathi, whatever is easier. I've had so many different names throughout my life that I can make like a 2 or 3 page list for you, man. I'm not even joking.
I mean, yeah, I
Okay.
mean,
Yeah.
I won't press the buttons here. Like, Stathi is defending his thesis, his MA thesis actually in a couple of days. How do you feel like looking forward to that defense? Like, how's it been? How was the ride up until this point?
Hey, listen, man. The journey's been tough. Not tough, I would say, intellectually mostly, but just tough in terms of trying to find time and to do things in a more like efficient way. Uh, but I'm looking forward to defending. I'm looking forward to this chapter being done, and I'm optimistic. Obviously, very nervous. I mean, who won't be there? But yeah, it's a good chapter, and then we're moving on to the next one. So I'm looking very, very, very forward to it.
I mean, you seem pretty confident looking forward to that particular time. I mean, on my end, I know I'll be defending around October, midway in October. That's my goal. And since I'm wrapping up, courses right now, last course almost done. Writing the thesis will definitely be a major task, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on in the summertime. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, like I feel, having done a 3MT a couple of days ago, a 3-minute thesis, which I heavily encourage everybody to do, whatever graduate program you're in, master's, PhD, it really allowed me to crunch in all my theoretical background knowledge into a 3-minute spiel for, and present it in front of an audience, especially in front of a lay audience. So, on that note, like, have you ever had to explain what your thesis was to a bunch of people that were not knowledgeable about theology?
Yes, actually, many times, mostly because of also they didn't even know that historical event that I'm focusing on happened.
Right.
So uh, I mean, heresy is a big part of theology, as you most likely know, and it's actually a very big part of the history of Christianity, for example, right? Like, there's a lot of things that there's a lot of laws and events and documents that are written because of heretical appearances. Let's say, for example, or heretical, or I would say the appearance of heretical doctrine, right, or the supposed appearance of heretical doctrine. So having to explain those things to people who are like, oh, what's heresy? Like, what is that?
Right.
Well, what do you? In 3 minutes, it's very hard. So I commend you for doing for doing that 3 minutes for your thesis. I'm not going to lie to you. It takes me a bit more than 3 minutes, but having to simplify it sometimes is actually the hardest part, and as you most likely know, and it's you just tell people, you try and give them the minimum, right?
Right.
And then hopefully by the minimum they'll sort of understand the gist of what you're trying to say, and if they ask questions and want to know more, then I mean, you can talk for hours and hours, right, about it. So, but
I think if they're asking questions, it's a good indicator of their level of interest.
yeah,
absolutely. So if somebody asks me what my thesis is, and I just unveil whatever topic I'm working on, and they're asking me, then they start asking me questions about what that may be. It's either two things: either they're pretending to care, or most of the time, they have a genuine interest to know more about a particular thing and why I'm invested in it. Right. So it's I think it's super interesting for me to actually have that challenge of explaining something that's super theoretical and to distill it, or to not even distill it, but dilute it into layman's terms for people to understand. And I think that was the major issue with 3MT. I'll be honest with you.
How did you do, by the way? Sorry.
I
did
did
okay.
I did very well, actually. It's on YouTube as well. Like, I can actually put that snippet onto the channel. So yeah, it's on the Fourth Space YouTube channel. I went on last, so I had to like wait through everybody else's presentations, which kind of builds up anxiety, but at the same time, it's fun to be in the main event, of any show. I think I did pretty well, but I did not win. Right, so I'm very competitive by nature. I like winning. I didn't win.
Things happen, man. Things happen. But
so,
I get it.
Yeah.
I understand completely. I did the Disputatio last year, and
Right.
I mean, I didn't know it was a competition until like halfway through the conference, right?
Right, and I was there. I went.
Yeah.
I sat through the whole day. Like,
Yeah.
I know Ridge and Zach had to leave earlier because they were also visiting and spectating.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to see. Like, I'm a fan of these kinds of events. I really like
Yeah.
conventions. I organized 2 conventions myself, like one in 2016 and one in 2018 in the past. I like when people have something to present and something to showcase, like especially after all the sweat equity that comes into
Definitely.
like,
Definitely.
this
Absolutely.
kind of thing. And I was actually going to delve into the Disputatio, but right before that, like, so 3MT was a great experience for me, and it was interesting in a way, to communicate something that might seem complicated for people, but the challenge really was to present the research, but at the same time give a good show. Now that your topic is it only about heresy, or is it about other things? Is it medieval, contemporary? Like,
Yeah.
Where do we locate ourselves?
Yeah. So it's medieval. I have a very I'm a big medievalist. I mean, I hope to be actually like a medieval scholar one day. That's my plan and my goal. I just ever since I was young, I just always had this particular affinity to medieval history. I love it. I love the events. I love the I just love the I don't know. It might sound crazy, but I love the violence.
Like the whole mystique, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm not sure if what captivated you or sparked your interest was the entertainment side of the Middle Ages. Was it that actually gripped your attention?
You know what? It's not even my first historical time period that I like. It's not the time period that really got me into history. It sort of like developed because of strangely enough, what got me into history was ancient Egypt.
Oh,
just the legacy of ancient Egypt for like first of all, and then for some strange reason, I just like, I still love ancient Egypt. Don't get me wrong, like the legacy and the history, archaeology, all that is fantastic. It's phenomenal, but I don't know. I just my first experience with history with medieval history was I received a book from Michael. It's a contemporary book on it's a chronology of the Byzantine emperors by Michael Psellos.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a Byzantine historian, and he talked about he talked about certain successive reigns of Byzantine emperors.
Right.
And I think I read that book when I was like, I read it gradually, but I think I read it when I was like 14 or 15 or something.
That's a tender age.
Yeah. And I just like, I was like, wow, this is great stuff. Truly great stuff. And I mean, I'd also read a Greek version of it, because I'm Greek. I learned the language and all that. I went to Greek school. I since from the age of 5 until 19, right? So, the Greek language was and still is a very important part of my life, and like my Greek heritage and religion and all that. And so I also read the Greek version of that book in Greek school.
In Greek school, wow, okay.
Right, so I was like, wow, this is great stuff. Like, this is like all the intrigue, like the power politics, the the battles, the all that, and I ever since then it's just always been medieval history. No matter what, I just can't get it off my mind.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay, so you're pretty passionate about it,
extremely.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you see, that's a cool thing. Good thing that I have you on the podcast because I didn't know that about you
yeah,
at first. I remember when we met, it was at the Disputatio, like
yeah,
exactly a year ago, around end of March or
yeah,
early March. I don't remember.
yeah. Exactly.
And that was my first convention style event relating Concordia and theological studies and all that. And yeah, we met then, and I thought you were from Chamonix because of your Greek background. I grew up around a lot of Greeks. I played some uh, ground hockey with a lot of
Yeah,
Greeks in the neighborhood. It was had a lot of good childhood memories from them, and yeah, and it was a full day event. And personally, I wasn't even a competitor, or I shouldn't say competitor, or presenter in that event, but it really marked my MA. I don't know why that particular day, and seeing Casey win it for Concordia as well. We celebrated the next
absolutely.
day. Actually, I'll tell you all about it.
Shout out Casey.
Yeah, shout out to Casey. Hopefully, I'll have her on the show. Hopefully, if she agrees. And yeah, having her win, seeing her win, and knowing how much effort she had put in as well into that presentation was a great. So, did you feel marked by the event? Did you feel like it bolstered your status as a scholar, future scholar?
Absolutely, absolutely. That was my first ever academic conference. And I first of all I have to thank Dr. Jean-Michel Rosely for that opportunity. He really pressed me and pushed me. He's like, I think you should do it. I think it'll be well for your public speaking skills and all that, and to formulate ideas in front of a panel or an audience, and that just I just did it for me, to be honest with you, man. I knew that I wanted to be a scholar before then,
Mm-hmm.
but doing that, it just it multiplied it a hundredfold. And now at any opportunity that I can get, I'll try, and I mean hopefully if I get accepted into conferences and whatnot. But any opportunity that I can get, I will try to participate in conferences. I mean, I think it's very important for a scholar, and well, an aspiring scholar. I'm not one yet. Yes, I've published some papers and all that, but
You're on your way. That's for sure.
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'll be there one day. But yeah, that was a very good experience. There was one particular instance in that conference that sort of marked me in a way where I'm like, okay, I can definitely do better. It was when I had right before I had started speaking, I put a little disclaimer
Mm-hmm.
about the word Catharism and Cathars, about the heresy in southern France,
yeah.
that was which is basically what my topic is about, the heresy in southern France that caused so much disruption and discord within the church and within the political entities in southern France as well. And I had one of the scholars over there just tell me by saying that you're not participating in the debate on nomenclature and all the issues that the appearance of Catharism has done in scholarship and whatever. She's like, you're participating in the debate. By saying you're not participating, she's like, you're essentially participating. And I was like, well, how does that work?
Well, I don't understand.
Yeah, well, so in this disclaimer, I said basically, I understand these scholarly issues that the name Catharism has, done or has gone through in the past. I would say maybe 40 years really is the threshold where historians have come out and they've tried to disclaim the appearance of Catharism, the name, basically its overall existence in Christian history and medieval history. And so one of the scholars, I forget her name, is Genevieve something. She works at UQAM. She's one of the she's a medieval scholar. She works on the city of Montpellier in the 12th century. Very interesting, by the way. And so she came up to me after and she was like, you do realize that by saying that you're not participating in the debate, you are, because you're creating an opinion. And I was like, she's like, you're creating an opinion about the debate
Okay.
by saying that you're not participating in the debate. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why does it have to be so technical? Anyway, I mean, that's what scholarship is, right? At the end of the day, it's really technical, it's really meticulous. And she explained to me that she actually gave me really good pointers and advice on how to proceed if ever I decide to just maybe focus on that for like a PhD or whatever. And she tried to explain to me that like you have to not say that. Like, don't even include the disclaimer, for example, because you're indirectly participating in the scholarly debate.
Okay.
And so yeah, it was strange, and I was also quite confused after that. But I actually I took a bit of a step back and I reviewed what she said to me in hindsight. Well, like yeah, and I was like, yeah, maybe she's right. Maybe I just shouldn't do that unless I really know more about the topic, right? And so I had thought about actually, before the conference, I had thought about including something like that into my thesis,
right.
And I quickly removed it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, from the sounds of it, it seems to me like I'm trying to put myself in your shoes and to vicariously, put myself back in.
I mean, I don't know if you remember that. That was because she said it to me during the disputatio, and then she said it to me after again. But anyway, yeah.
What I do remember is that Louis Joseph and yourself had received a little bit of pushback from the scholars that were in at the event. So I did remember that you had spent quite a few minutes on stage justifying your presentation. I couldn't, because I'm not a specialist in that field. I'm more in a contemporary evangelical Catholic political type of vein. So I didn't remember. I didn't capture exactly what your topic was about. I knew that it was medieval, but that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
But I do remember that at the event you had to stand there and explain a couple of things in more depth. But yeah, like the particularities of your interactions, that I couldn't really remember. But thanks for highlighting it, because now like I can tell that the disclaimer that you had posed actually backfired a bit.
Yeah, there was some backlash, and I was just, and like I said, I thought about it again after, like I really thought about it like a couple of days after the conference, and I was like, but did I really participate in the debate? And I was just trying to track back about what Genevieve said to me, and I was like, and I looked at what I wrote, and I was like, okay, maybe I am, because I'm stating a claim. Pardon me. Because I'm stating a claim that I'm not in the debate.
Right.
I'm basically saying, I'm basically a neutral.
Mm-hmm.
And neutrality can be either like you're for the existence of Catholicism, or you're basically like one of these scholars whose name is Mark Gregory Pegg, who just completely and utterly denies it. And I was like, really? Okay. I mean, I'll just look. I took it with a grain of salt, and that was the one clear pushback that I had, and I mean, look, constructive criticism. You have to. You have no choice, and if you want to go far in academia, you have to be, first of all, like mentally available for constructive criticism,
right?
And you have to just take everything as it comes. You're not perfect. I mean, I had I had Dr. Rossley, destroy certain papers of mine.
Oh, really?
Right, and he's like, your writing is good, but just make it better.
Right.
By doing this, by clearly outlining these sorts of things, and those are the things that actually marked me throughout this experience. And I mean, I would gladly do it all over again. To be honest with you, I'm not gonna lie, because you learn from everything, and then you you apply it, and I'll definitely take all the advice that I can into future scholarship. Not right now because my brain is a little bit tired. But,
Yeah, I guess
yeah.
so. You might need to relax before the
Yeah.
big day, you know,
Yeah.
on April 18th, which
Of course.
I'm definitely going to contact you afterwards to see like how it went,
Yeah.
and you know, I'm sure you're going to succeed
Yeah.
in that endeavor. But yeah, like just to latch on to your last few points, like
Yeah.
I think, you know, I've always been someone who is receptive toward constructive criticism, and that dates all the way back to, you know, high school, because I was in a very competitive high school in Montreal.
Where did you go?
I went to Collège Regina Assumpta.
Oh, Regina Assumpta. Yeah,
Regina
I know
Assumpta.
it. Yeah.
Back in 2006, that was I think it was rated one of the top 3 in Montreal. The Jean Euden Brebeuf, but you know, ever since it
I still think it's a very good school.
It's
yeah,
still
yeah.
a good school, but I
Yeah.
think it lost 1 out of 10 marks on the palmarès rating,
I see.
which is huge when you lose a full mark for that particular scale. So it's no longer. I don't consider it to be the massively prestigious school that it was back then, but yes, it is a pretty good school.
Yeah.
So back then they would, you know, given the competitive and highly the high standard that goes with studying at that school, like it's a, you know, a very challenging school to go to intellectually. Ever since, I had to like learn how to take that constructive criticism and always push myself to get better over and over and over, and just you know, recreate everything that I'm working on, and just push myself to improve. And yeah, like I think constructive criticism is great to receive if it's clear, right? Because you know, from the sounds of it, I can understand where Genevieve is coming from when it comes to perhaps not making that disclaimer in order not to partake in the debate. But I feel like she's not giving you enough wiggle room, because if you're trying to take a neutral stance by making that disclaimer,
yeah,
you're clearly trying to be neutral, and
yeah,
you're saying it explicitly.
I know.
Right?
That's what I thought as well.
So then I'm like, okay, well, fuck. How do I just present it with a neutral approach, even though, let's say, if I'm going to talk about, I don't know, Nazism in Germany, right? I'm going to describe it as is, and it's hard for me to be neutral and not be, you know, if I want to be neutral and not be pro-Nazi or against Nazism, well, de facto, I'm going to be against it because of all the horrors it caused, right? So if you're talking about your thesis, like the heresy of Catharism, hopefully I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Well, you know, you're going to present it as theoretically as you can. You know, at the MA thesis level, you can definitely chime in and integrate your standpoint if it's professionally communicated. But yeah, like I think I disagree a little bit with Genevieve's standpoint, because you know, I don't see how, by you giving a disclaimer that, correct me if I'm wrong, that you're being neutral, how could that be like how could that be taking position in a debate? And why should there be a debate in the first place? Like if you're just presenting a certain movement that happened in the Middle Ages, right? So
from what I know about the debate on nomenclature, it's been so for this topic specifically, what I understand throughout my research was that the German historical school, the German religious historical school of like the late 19th and early 20th century, basically latched on to this idea that all heresies throughout Christian history are somewhat related. And that's a massive problem in itself, only because of, one, the extreme gap in time that certain sects, you know, appeared throughout history.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't tell me that. I mean, this. Then again, I'm not entirely sure, right? I don't want to say yes, or you can't tell me that this is this because of this. But a lot of medievalists, and especially contemporary medieval chroniclers have seen an idea that all of these heresies are somewhat linked, only because of their fears and projections of like an imminent doom that is proposed through heresy, and how it goes against Christian doctrine. It goes against the history of the faith and how it's been developed through the church fathers, and it's just the idea of orthodoxy, right, and heresy, and how they counter each other, has just always been, from what I understand through my research, always a bone of contention between, authority and people who try to claim some authority.
Right.
And so the debates on nomenclature, they just and it took about 40 years post German historical scholars, like I would say in the early 90s, possibly mid 90s, for these revisionist historians to actually come out and say, well, we have to track back a bit here. We have to see how they relate, if they relate,
mm-hmm.
and where this name Catharism comes from. From what I understand, and again, I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to be like skewed to one side. From what I understand, it's a name that was created by someone.
Right. Yeah, it has to, the etymology has to come from somewhere.
Right. And so because this name was created by someone, they took it as historical fact. And they just ran with it. Medieval polemics took that name, created an idea, and through their fears and projections of apocalypticism, about all the Christian doctrine that comes with eschatology, everything like that, they created an idea of heresy being inherently evil,
mm-hmm.
Satanically derived. If Orthodox Christian doctrine is good and right, then heresy has to be evil, and the only place it comes from is Satan. You know what I mean?
Yes,
so there's just this constant idea of if we let these people thrive, then it'll be the death of us. It'll be the end of Christendom, the end of the world as we know it, for example. And so I would love to eventually participate in that debate. Right? I would love to eventually meet, or maybe possibly interact with some of these scholars who have just done incredible strides into just deconstructing this difficult, although popular, but very difficult historical name,
mm-hmm.
Period. And obviously you might not know some of these people, but I'm naming names like Monique Zerner, Jean-Louis Biget, Mark Gregory Pegg, all these people, and they played a really, really important part in my research, because I don't want to say it, but I was kind of dogmatic in the beginning of my MA. I came up to Dr. Rossley and I was like, hey, so this topic really interests me. How can I maybe tackle it from a purely neutral standpoint? And he's like, wait a year, read some books, read some sources, let me know what you think. And I was severely dogmatic in the beginning, but I was like, oh, because of my Orthodox faith, I was like, okay, well, how can these heretics just exist in this and that? This is not good.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, well, try to take a step back and look at it from a purely academic perspective, a purely neutral. And I was like, okay. A year and a half passed by, and I was like, okay, maybe there's something here that I'm not understanding. Maybe history, right? And this is the tricky thing about history. You have to sift through, you have to filter through documents,
mm-hmm.
and a whole bunch of things in order to actually try and realize what is real and what is not. Just because someone says or has written an event that they say happened, does it mean that it happened in that way that they describe it?
Right. And who wrote that? You know. And,
who wrote that?
And a lot of people say that history's been written by the winners.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who wrote that?
Yeah.
In what context did they write it? What was the, social climate? What was the political climate? What was the religious climate, right? I mean, we're on a theology podcast, right? Like religion and history together, especially in the Middle Ages, it's like they're inseparable.
They're almost one and the same.
Exactly. So
you just get a bit closer to it.
Yes, of course. Absolutely. Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry. Because I'm like eyeballing the camera as well, just to keep track of everything, because I have Audacity running here and the camera there.
No, definitely. Sorry about that. Yeah.
But yeah, like just that word is super interesting. The word heresy, because when I looked it up, and I've had informal debates with just friends, and especially with Catholics. I grew up Catholic my whole life. Now I'm more of an regarding my faith, I'm more of an overarching Christian. Like on one Sunday, I might go to an evangelical service or an Anglican service or Catholic service, or Eastern Orthodox service as well. I've been to a Coptic Egyptian Orthodox service.
How did you like it?
I really enjoyed it, but I had to respect the fact at the end that I had to get escorted out during the transubstantiation of the sacrament, because apparently they have their own rules, let's say, regarding who may attend the sacrament or not. So like,
it's interesting.
Yeah. So like because I do tutoring, and one of my students, he's 23 and he's studying accounting, and I help him out with French, right? So he invited me to an Orthodox service on a Sunday morning at 8 a.m. So I was like, okay, like I'll go to your Coptic Egyptian Orthodox service. Super interested in attending the service. Liturgy, it's called the liturgy, I think.
Yeah.
The divine liturgy.
Yeah.
But at the latter end, like when they have the sacrament, he told me, okay, well, Chris, now we have to we just have to step out, because it's very sacred, and it's for the faithful. Right.
See, that's actually quite interesting. I'm not going to lie to you.
And I respect that. I didn't feel insulted one bit. Like, it was just, I was totally fine with it, and I respect that. I actually felt respected because of that. Right.
So that's slightly different than the Greek Orthodox tradition that I grew up in, and that I still adhere very closely. My faith is very important to me. And it's always been, it's one of the defining factors of my life. I'm not going to lie to you. In a world where we don't see that very, very often, talking to people who stick close to their faith is first of all, it warms my heart, and I try to tell and ask people, why do you still believe? Why are you still, you faithful to your religion after all these years, after things that we see on TV or news and whatever. And you mentioned the thing about transubstantiation, and about you being Catholic, and or overarching Christian, as you say, having to exit that. I have never spoken to anyone who's non-Orthodox and tell me that they had to experience that in Orthodox Church. That's the first time I've ever heard that. And that strikes me as very surprising, because the Orthodox Church, from what I understand, from I've been raised in it my whole life, they're pretty open to having people from different Christian faiths come and see that, right? Like, come and experience a divine liturgy.
I mean, from what people had told me, especially Middle Easterners like Lebanese, Syrians, Egyptians, and Armenians, a lot of them told me the exact contrary.
Really?
And specifically about the sacrament. And just as a sign, I'll get right back to heresy. When I looked it up, actually means school of thought. But it seems to me like the Catholics have shed a lot of dirt and made it such a dirty term with time. And eventually we'll probably just talk about that as well. But yeah, like when I spoke to folks that were Armenian, Syrian, Lebanese, and Middle Easterners, they told me like at a lot of that some of them had a similar experience, and that they could not take communion for
That
some
yes.
reason. So
That yes. So the thing about communion is, well, I mean, I don't know if you know, but for Greek Orthodox, and I think Orthodox people in general, the period of Great Lent is like extremely important. Like we're
50
in
days,
Great
right?
Lent right now, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So,
Yeah.
the 40-day it's 40 days of fasting, and fasting, like we obviously we don't do like the Muslims, right? For example, like
Like the Ramadan.
they just
right now.
exactly like Ramadan is, they fast from morning to night.
Mhm.
Greek Orthodox or Orthodox people in general, they fast meat and dairy products 40 days. And the argument behind that is we do the 40 days because of the time that Jesus spent in the desert, right?
Right.
So, and Jesus fasted. Jesus didn't eat
At all.
anything,
Didn't drink anything either.
right? He didn't drink or eat anything
Which
for
is
40 days, right? So
crazy.
it's reminiscent of that, and it's reminiscent of like Jesus's, sacrifice in a way, in the desert, right? Like his trial, he gave up food and drink, so we're supposed to give up those important things. I know the Catholics. I know that you guys have to give up something that you hold dearly, from what I understand. Because I know my girlfriend's Italian, so she does that. She has to give up, like, let's say, God forbid, she was an alcoholic or something like that, right? Or whatever, or give up alcohol, or give up candy, or give up.
And she's a practicing Catholic, I'm guessing? Or?
She's not really practicing,
right.
But she understands the faith. You know, she understands the faith.
And all that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, I am doing Lent right now.
Yeah.
You know, given that my parents are both Catholics, and I grew up in that faith. So what I do nowadays as an adult is that I give up meat for 40 days, and that's pretty much it. Like I know the Egyptian person that I was talking about. He, in his tradition, becomes a vegan for 40 days. So it's like
that's exactly it.
Any animal products. So that includes fish, meat, dairy, eggs, and I don't know what else. Like perhaps oils.
That's exactly it.
Yes.
Oils are allowed on certain days. Oils are allowed, I think, maybe
like animal-based oils, not vegetable-based oils, or.
Yeah. Olive oil is fine. On I think it's random days, like I think like Thursdays or something like that, for example, right? Like throughout. And I know that Palm Sunday is like the one day throughout Great Lent that you can eat fish.
Oh, interesting.
And you can eat oils.
Okay, not meat.
You can just not meat.
Not dairy.
No.
Okay.
Because I forgot why, but maybe it might get back to me. It might come back to me a bit later, and I'll just just throw it in there. But yes, essentially that's what it is. Orthodox people turn into vegans for 40 days.
Super interesting.
And that is what allows you to. So through that, it allows you to. You have to regularly take confession. Right, like you. In order for you to be able to take communion, you have to have confessed, I think, 3 or 4 days before. So, yeah, and it's very strict. Orthodoxy is very, very strict, but I've gotten used to it over many years, and it's played a massive role in my life and my upbringing. Yeah.
I mean, the discipline it requires sounds to be quite stringent and strict, but I think I'm a firm believer that discipline actually pays off in the end.
Definitely.
I know it's hard in the beginning. Like if I were to do Ramadan, right? If I were Muslim, I would not be able to do Ramadan, like because
That's tough, man.
I mean, I tried intermittent fasting back 2018, 2019. It worked for a while, but you know, eventually when I see people around me, eating at certain hours, it's hard for me not to eat as well. So, like, and like I have a pretty big appetite, so it's hard for me to actually fast on something. So I think if I were to start fasting, especially if I want to go aggressively on it, I might have to go very progressively and slowly, and then experience what it's like actually not to
You
eat
have
for a
to.
full day, right?
You have to.
Like I can't go without my coffee in the morning, so that's quite hard. I start having headaches and stuff.
I understand completely because I had to be gradual about my fasting as well, and my mother, my aunt, my grandmother, they're all like they do the 40 days. They do the 40 days for Easter and they do the 40 days for Christmas.
For Christmas as
It's
well.
a 40-day fast for Christmas as well. The 40 days.
Advent.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Interesting.
And then there's certain feast days that they also fast for as well. Like they fast for like because in Greek Orthodoxy we and Orthodoxy in general. Sorry, I keep saying Greek Orthodoxy, but like I know that there's Bulgarian, Ukrainian, Russian, all that. But
right.
I mean, we have name days, and it's like my name, for example, is Evstathios.
Right.
And there was a saint Evstathios.
Oh, really?
Yes.
How does that translate to French or English? Like
you're gonna laugh. It's actually Eustache.
Eustache. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. We're gonna have to start calling you Eustache.
No, but like.
Well, there's a city called Saint Eustache up north.
Yeah, so. and it's named after the saint Saint Evstathios.
Wow.
He's a Roman. He was a Roman general or something like that, and he just he found Christ, and he martyred himself with him and his family, and so that's so we have name days, right? And certain names of saints are celebrated on the day they die.
Right, like feast days. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And so my mom and my aunt and my grandmother they fast to take communion on their feast days. So they'll fast like let's say 3 or 4 days before, and then they'll confess.
Right.
Like they'll go to confession or whatever, and then they'll be able to take communion on their feast day.
Well, it's the first time that I heard that Eastern Orthodoxy actually has a confession sacrament, because I thought that it was only a sacrament that was in Catholicism, but actually the Orthodox actually has that. Is there any differences between the Catholic confession and the procedure and the Orthodox confession?
Well, I don't know how the Catholic procedure really works. I only know it through like history. I only know that you basically have to you go see a priest, and we don't like Eastern Orthodoxy that we don't have that how do you call that?
The confessional booth?
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't do that. We sit next to the priest, and we talk. We discuss. It's not like yes, obviously the priest says like you did this wrong, you did that wrong, like like you just try and not do those things.
Right, which is super hard. So.
Dude, very hard.
Yeah, no.
Very, very hard.
And confession is so cathartic once it's over, but when we're standing in line in front of the confessional booth, like I'm just thinking, okay, well, how am I going to say this? What am I going to say to this guy? Like it's just, is it actually worth it? Like, can I just go all Protestant and not have confession at all, and just do it, keep it between me and God without a third party or whatever? So, yeah.
But we have this thing. I don't know if you've ever seen. I mean, I'm pretty sure. I mean, Orthodox priests wear this it's like mantle thing.
Yeah, something on their head, like a veil that goes backwards.
And it's not a veil. It's like this rectangular cloth, kind of. Let's say if I can describe it in that way. There's a hole in the middle that you put through your head, and on each side, there's like this like flap in the garment that has like the cross on it, and it's embroidered and everything and all that. After you've confessed, your sins
Yeah.
to the priest, he puts that over your head, and he says a prayer,
Oh, really?
and
Wow.
that is what cleanses you of your sins.
You see, I didn't even know that. Like,
Yeah.
that's a ritual that I have never seen before.
Yeah.
It's super interesting.
Yeah, so that's and like that's like when that sort of thing happens, it's like, you know, and I've personally felt it. Like, I've felt myself be cleansed. I don't know if that sounds crazy to
Yeah.
you. You know what I mean?
Like
I feel it.
Like a relief?
Yes.
Okay.
A massive relief. And it's those sorts of things that, like, you know, that make you, you know, just inherently, one, captivated for the power of, you know, Christ, God, all that. And it's also a mystery. In Greek, a sacrament means mystery.
Mystery, okay.
It is a mystery.
Yeah.
How can a priest have that power? Obviously, it comes from somewhere, right?
Right.
So, but it still remains a mystery. And you know, these are the deep mysteries of the faith that have led me to really keep it close to my heart. And no matter what happens in my life, I'll never give it up.
That's
you know what I
super
mean?
interesting.
So,
Yeah.
and yeah, but yeah, no, there's certain differences in Catholicism with Orthodoxy, and I know that, you know, that I don't like having, you know, the or like a conversation with people and telling them, oh, there's a difference here, there's a difference there. There's, for the sake of conversation, I'm like, okay, yes, there are some differences. In essence, they're both Christian. Like, we both believe in very similar things, right? Like, we believe in saints, we believe in Christ, Virgin Mary, all that. We believe in confession, we believe in all the sacraments, you know, the Eucharist. Like, those are extremely important tenets of the faith that are not that different between the two.
Mm-hmm.
But there are, like, really, like, deep theological differences that, like, if you want to analyze them, like, it's
like the Theology, for example.
Yes,
I think
exactly.
that's
That's
like,
massive,
I
right?
think that, I don't know if that was the specific historical point of discord between Catholics and Orthodox back in 1054.
Yeah.
But I do remember, though, because when I looked at the whole ensemble of Christianity, right, and I looked at the timeline. So if Christianity started about 2,000 years ago, right, I noticed a pattern just with the whole evolution of the Christian religion, where in the year 450 you had the first split with the Ethiopian Oriental Church, which I believe, you can correct me on this, but I think they're all also considered Orthodox.
Yeah, yes, exactly. The Ethiopians are considered Orthodox.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
So, like, when we look at Christianity, you basically have three major families: Catholics, Protestants, and Orthodox.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then afterwards you have derivatives and derivatives. So the first split happened about 500 years in with the Ethiopians. Then fast forward another 500 years, 1054, split with the Orthodox Church, right? So I'm not sure what happened there, like the Filioque disagreements. It even led to one of the 7 Crusades was actually Orthodox and Catholics. That was one of the 7 apparently.
The fourth crusade.
The fourth one, yeah.
The fourth crusade was in the early 13th century, and it was Catholics just sacked Constantinople. They sacked, and then there was the whole Latin kingdom of Constantinople for about 50, 60 years around then, and then there was a revival after. But, like, yeah, that you're absolutely right. Yeah, fourth crusade.
It was I think it was a priest on YouTube or something where I remember I was watching a documentary or something on YouTube, and they had mentioned that Catholics and Orthodox had a dispute in one of the crusades, and you're telling me it's the fourth one, so
yeah,
it kind of confirms that. So yeah, so the first 500 years split with the Ethiopians, then the schism in 1054 with the Orthodox. Yeah. Fast forward another 500 years. We all remember what happened with Luther.
Yeah.
It seems to me like every 500 years there's something going on, right? And so Luther started the Protestant Reformation, and that kind of echoed in surrounding countries because King Henry VIII had his falling out with the Pope after a good solid friendship.
Definitely.
He couldn't get his annulment to divorce Catherine of Aragon of Spain.
Exactly.
Right? And that kind of like stirred turmoil between him and the Pope. So you have Anglicans who created their own version of. I'm not going to say it this way. Actually, they had developed their own Protestantism in their country. But then even in the British Isles, we had evangelical movements. Well, that started with Presbyterianism and Puritanism, which then turned into evangelicalism in the States, right? And that's my focus is really Catholicism and evangelicalism specifically. Even though they're kind of far apart, it's interesting to see like their points of differences and commonalities. But then when you fast forward another 500 years, we're like today, don't you find that we're living in a post-Christian era? It's super like because the thing is like, I am a Christian. And sometimes I'm kind of reticent to ask people about their faith. Like even Dr. Rossley, it took me a whole semester to muster up some courage to ask him. Okay, well, by the way, do you actually believe in God? Like, just, you know when you try to approach someone and try to see if you have any that common denominator of the Christian faith. Like even you, like I was going to ask, but I was going to keep it for the latter end. I'm glad that you brought it up.
No, definitely, I think it's important. It's a good icebreaker. Yeah.
And Dr. Rossley just immediately said, yeah, I'm Catholic. Okay, good. It kind of breaks the ice and relieves all the pressure. So but like 500 years later now in the 2000s, I'm like crap, we're going through another schism.
Yeah.
And I think this is personally I think it's potentially for all intents and purposes the final schism because if we're exiting Christendom right now and we're entering a secular society and God knows how long we can talk about that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the future has in store, right? For the faith.
I don't know either. But one thing that I always learned in I went to Sunday school, all that, and I learned like Sunday school was one thing, that was very formative and very important. But I also learned the faith through Greek school.
Greek school, okay, yeah.
Yeah, Greek school is a very important and formative part for me as well, and it not only taught me to speak, read, and write Greek, but it taught me certain aspects of my faith as well. And one thing that I've always it just when tough times come, you just have to just go back to your roots. You know what I mean? Like you have to just go back to simplicity, and if we're unable to talk about religion, Christianity, anything really, or any religion, right. For example, right? Without it being considered negative, not progressive, like things like that. We just have to go back to what we believe in. We don't have to necessarily agree with whatever people are saying. I'm always open to conversation. I'm always open to people, who tell me like, oh, why do you believe in God? Why do you believe in, why are you religious?
Right.
And I just, I'm honest with them. I tell them, I deeply believe in my faith. I deeply believe in the message that it tries to convey. And, that might not stick well with people. Mm-hmm. Some people have different views, and we have to be respectful of those views. But I stick to what I believe in, and but again, always open to conversation, right? Which is extremely important. But yeah, you're right. Who knows? This might be the last schism. It might be.
Well,
you never know.
It's a weird epoch to live in right now. So it's I don't know. But if that is the pattern, like every 500 years you see something happening within the world of Christianity, like I'm wondering if we're definitely entering a secular age, like bar none. That's
I think so as well.
And well, I think what toughened me up personally on my end was the fact that 70% of uh, my friends, my closest friends, were either agnostic or atheists. Like only 30 to 40% were like Christians or Muslims or whatever. And I'll be perfectly honest with you. Like sometimes during high school, and you know how kids in high school, teenagers can be such pricks. Like some people would call me an idiot for having faith. Like some sort of
Definitely.
atheists that don't believe in God. Like, okay, well, great. You want to be an atheist? Go ahead, be an atheist. But don't call someone stupid because they're a Christian, right? And I think I personally, what I believe and what's never talked about in the media is Christophobia. What I believe is happening is full scale, Christophobia.
Absolutely.
With TV shows, Hollywood, the media.
I agree.
Fuck, and we just don't talk about it. Like
no.
What we talk about, this group of people being persecuted, that group of people being persecuted, phobia here, phobia there. But what about the persecution against Christians that is happening, in plain sight, right? So,
I fully agree. And I'll tell you, I'll tell you a funny story that you mentioned being ridiculed throughout your youth from your agnostic or atheist friends. I had a really good friend growing up. Still consider him a friend to this day. Completely atheist. Him and his two brothers. We had a massive debate one day at their house. I think I was like 18 or something like that, right? For example, maybe 17 or 18. And they were trying to convince me to become an atheist.
Interesting. They were evangelizing you, right?
Yeah. And in that whole experience, I never once tried to tell them you should be a Christian. But they were trying to tell me you have to be an atheist because of this fact, this fact, this fact. We're just naming facts. And I was like, okay. You can take your facts and and I'm not gonna lie to you, Chris, that conversation and that event actually it strengthened my faith, because I was like, you're always gonna have people who are gonna tell you to not do what you love and what you want to do, and they're always gonna try and tell you that their version of something is better than your version.
Kind of, it's all about
trying
to convince someone of it. But like in French, I have like a French motto for myself, and I like making these mottos in my head sometimes. Like the more you're emotional, the less you're professional. I kind of try to parlay things into my head, and one of them is un débat n'est pas un combat.
Yeah,
it's not supposed to be a fight.
No,
like there shouldn't be like, okay, it's me against you, and my arguments are supposed to like crush yours or whatever. No, when you're debating, you're not debating the person. You're debating the topic, right? And I was debating a Muslim a couple of days ago because they had their Muslim Awareness Week or whatever.
Okay.
Over at the LB building, and the guy just he's Egyptian. He came up to me and he just started talking about like the faith and what's interesting. I'm like, okay, well apparently you guys love Jesus. All right, well, let's talk about that. And they don't believe in the divinity of Christ. And I was telling him about the dual nature, the human and divine nature of Christ that we learn about. And we had a very respectful conversation.
Of course.
He's Muslim, I'm Christian. How I put it is like, if I walk according to my doctrine and you walk according to your doctrine, you're right according to your doctrine and I'm right according to my doctrine. I'm not falling into relativism here, but like if I'm being a hypocrite, then I'm wrong. And if he's being a hypocrite according to his doctrine, then he's wrong.
Sure.
That's the way I see things.
Yes.
Right? So I'm not huge on converting people. I don't want to convert anyone. I prefer, if somebody wants to become a Christian, wonderful. Go ahead and convert yourself. Right? And I want people to experience Christ for themselves.
Of course.
In order to convert themselves. Because I'm not a Bible thumper. I don't want to slap people around with Bibles. That's not the way to go.
Me neither. That's a fanatic route that...
Right.
Listen, extremism in any religion is not the right way to do it.
No, absolutely not.
That's it.
I'm wondering if you did you finish your point earlier? Because I thought you were going to talk about.
No, that's it. It was
Right.
it was just basically to say that like yeah, I that experience and that conversation, that debate, it just accentuated my faith
Right.
like
Yeah.
hundredfold,
Hmm.
really, because I was like, okay, well, and you know what, it's crazy to think about it because it's like here I am, like in a modern day like persecution. That's what I kind of thought about it. Like that's what I kind of thought that it was. You know, I look back on Roman history. You know, let's say in the third century, where the great like Christian persecutions
Right.
happened. Right, like we have a whole bunch of Christian saints that are from the second, third, fourth century, um, and I mean, it might sound crazy, but I was like, okay, well, here I am, sort of being persecuted. Guy's telling me what I believe in is wrong, and I should do what he thinks. I mean, it's like, okay, cool. Do what you got to do, and let me do what I got to do. Like,
Well, I think
so
and again, you mentioned that you were on his turf, so like it's easier for
yeah,
him to flex on his turf when it's like
yeah,
his house, and he might feel like he's the boss and he's the king, and he can take liberties and say
yeah.
whatever the heck he wants.
No, definitely.
So perhaps that played in his favor and against you in that particular scenario. But yeah, I mean, when you talk about persecution, what the way to compare persecution the year 200 versus the year 2000, like back then, it was a physical persecution. We hear
Yeah,
about folks getting decapitated or thrown to lions or whatever. It's all physical. It's
yeah,
like you're getting physically killed, right?
yeah,
Which is, in my opinion, worse and more dangerous.
yeah.
But then again, people would disagree and claim that the psychological persecution that we're facing um, is just as detrimental, because even though we're not physically getting killed, we get to see another day. It's still like if we're psychologically getting persecuted, that's where demons play in the mind and start thinking, okay, well, you know
Definitely.
what, why should I maintain a faith that is evidently torturing me, and I should probably, why don't I just become atheist or agnostic and just dump my faith altogether? Wouldn't that be just as bad as getting killed by a lion, right? So I don't know.
Absolutely.
That's another topic of debate. I don't know which one is worse. Maybe they're just as bad, but yeah, no. I mean, I felt like in high school I had to defend my faith because I was more ostentatious about my faith. I had to. I did start putting it aside around sec 4 or 5. Like I was kind of normal again, and I wasn't a Bible thumper or anything, but I felt uh, under attack verbally for being a believer. Um, but regardless, again, like kind of like in your case, like I felt like it strengthened my faith and it didn't necessarily demolish me in any sense. And you know, kids are gonna be kids. Like I mean, you were
Yeah,
18,
of
so like
course.
it's being 12, 13, 14, 18, 19, 20.
Yeah,
Like we're not. I don't know how old you are right now. Like I'm 28, and I'm far more mature than what I was at 15. And
yeah,
hopefully, if I would like
definitely.
cross paths with these people, like they would understand. Okay, well, yeah, I was a dick, whatever. Like,
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure we can reconcile, and if they're still immature, that's their goddamn problem,
yeah, of course,
right? So,
absolutely.
but yeah, like how did it? So you're still friends with the person to this day, right?
Yeah, I am. And you know, it's actually not that long ago. Uh, we actually had a conversation about that day,
Interesting.
and I have no idea how it came back. Um, because I think he asked me about someone. He asked me about. I think he. Anyway, uh, I can't remember
Mm-hmm.
how the topic of conversation came up, but he just mentioned it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that day. It was a very interesting day, and we were like, dude, we were like going at it.
Right.
Like him and his two brothers were, they were in my face, you
And you
know,
were
about it.
on your own. You didn't have anybody in your
I
camp.
had my brother. I had my
Oh,
brother
okay,
who was
good.
there, also,
Yeah.
like, backing me up. And then there was another friend of mine who was also there who was just not in the conversation. So we were 6 people, one of which was just watching.
Just a bystander.
That's it. He was just a bystander.
Did he have some popcorn on him?
That's basically what it was, man. He was really entertained. Really entertained.
Yeah.
So it was me and my brother against them 3. And it was that was a very interesting experience. And listen, I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever be able to be in that sort of, debate again. Maybe, possibly. But all I know is that if I ever do, I'll tackle it the same way that I did, 12 years ago, 11. No, sorry, I was 18. I'm 31, so 13 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
And I'm guessing that it started off organically. Like it wasn't like you were planning on going to this guy's house to debate. Like
never.
Off a whim, it just started there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
and I hate that. Actually, I'm more of a systematic person. I'm a square. Like I'm from the sciences, bachelor in biochemistry. Like I like following procedures. Like I can't just. But sometimes, like especially in Catholic circles, ironically, the faith that I grew up in, that's where I kind of had to deal with a bunch of bigots, right, and a bunch of people that were staunchly attached to their doctrines, and the folks that would rock the word heresy around. I mean, they're mostly Catholic. And I love Catholics, man.
Yeah.
I have a lot of deep-rooted friendships, and I know that they're doing it out of charity, and they don't have a malicious heart, and that's cool. But sometimes just organically, I got into conversations where I felt like I had to defend Protestants because they oftentimes criticize Protestantism, especially evangelicals or Anglicans. But they kind of turn a blind eye to Orthodox, even though they don't agree with Orthodox doctrines, right? So, I oftentimes had to be the Protestant guy in the group and be like, hey, you know what? No, shut up. Like, you're wrong about this. Yeah. And at one point, I really had to put my foot down because the circumstances around the debate are just as important as the debate itself.
Definitely.
And I'll explain that by mentioning that, after we had a priest come over from Toronto to give a talk, and he had a nice 40 to 50 person crowd, pretty much a mix of the crowd. He had Hungarians, he had Polish, he had Italians, Lebanese, a whole bunch of Catholics.
Awesome.
All together to see that particular priest because he has a pretty good reputation. And we went out to the restaurant at about like 11:45 midnight, whatever. And I actually showed up late to his event because I was at an evangelical service right before going to his talk. I was like, oh yeah, Father, like I'm sorry, I showed up late, dude, because I was in a Protestant evangelical service like an hour before your talk. He's like, well, Chris, you shouldn't be showing up to. You shouldn't be going to that kind of. Sorry, you shouldn't be going to Protestant services. You know that, Chris. I was like, who the hell are you? Like, I mean, that's overstepping the boundary. And, and again, the circumstances are important because, I mean, you're working the restaurant business, right? So
I do.
Right, like
I do.
You some of your shifts finish late.
I definitely. Yeah.
Judge the human being's judgment after a certain hour drops like tenfold.
Oh.
After like midnight, nothing good. When people say like nothing good happens after midnight, right? It's true because like the brain is tired, man, and like so perhaps that person out of fatigue told me that. And I was like, and then I, organically, just like a match lights up on gasoline. I was like, I reacted. I was like, well, wait a minute. Like I didn't get angry. I think I was like, no, I think you're wrong or whatever. And then someone else was trying to debate me on it. I had to put my foot down. I'm like, look, buddy, it's 1 a.m. I'm not debating you at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Like, I'm smart enough to know that, after a certain hour, I'm not intellectually there. You're not intellectually there. Let's not have this right now. So,
Yeah, because emotions, like, listen, you're again, lack of judgment. You might say something you'll regret. Right. Because you're tired, because of whatever possible thing. I've seen some things in the restaurant business. I'm not going to lie to you. Hoping to get out of it one day, which I will. But I mean, regardless of the fact is that's got to do what you got to do for however long you have to do it. But yeah, I mean, having a debate with someone at 1 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah, no.
I mean, it's just going to end badly.
Right. So I had to put my foot down and say, like,
Yeah.
look, buddy, I know you're trying to debate right now.
Yeah.
We're not going to debate this right now. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, don't say this about Catholicism. I'm not saying anything about Catholicism. I just, like, he told me that, I shouldn't go to Protestant service, and it's not his role to say so.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, sometimes I have to shut people down just to make sure that, to avert any disasters. Right?
Of course.
But yeah, man, the restaurant business, like, I've never actually been in the restaurant business. I remember working at a bistro back in my late teens. But yeah, let's delve into that. Like, I mean,
yeah, it's
paychecks have to come in, right? So,
dude, look, I mean, I've been in the restaurant business since I was 15, working various jobs here and there, busboy, dishwasher. The restaurant industry was fairly flexible for school.
Mm-hmm.
Never did I have an issue going up to my managers or boss at the time and tell them like, hey, I can't work because of school. They're always like, okay, you have school? Yeah, okay, don't worry about it. They always worked around my school schedule. If ever I had to do something for school and take a day off, understanding, their rhetoric was like, oh yeah, I wish I could go back to school and do what you're doing. Like they're always like, stay in school.
Why?
Like, dude, because the restaurant industry is tough, man.
Okay.
Like it's tough, dude. It's really not for everyone. It's fast paced. It's a freaking jungle.
Yeah, well,
it's a jungle.
I heard, and I kind of feel for people when they're my waitress or waiter at my table, and I see the speed at which they're running around. Like, if I'll give you an example, Sato, the Korean restaurant, like right across from Seoul Shaka right here. Like, I was there with my family for an event. I think it was my mom's birthday or something, and I was looking around and looking at the speed at which these waiters are walking over, just running to cater everyone, and I think that's only the tip of the iceberg, right?
Oh yeah.
So
you have to really work for your money.
Yeah.
In every department.
Uh-huh.
In whatever you do at a restaurant, whether you're a dishwasher, whether you're a host, whether you're a busboy, a food runner, like a manager, which I am, a server. Obviously, servers are, I mean, like, they're the first line of defense. They're the first thing that we see when we come into, I mean, like, they're always running. They're always doing whatever you got to do, and every position in the restaurant industry is it's a humbling job. It really is, because
so go ahead.
I was gonna say it's a humbling job because, like, you really work hard for your money.
Mm-hmm.
You run, you sweat, anything really.
And you finish late.
And you finish late. Yeah. And you can get into conversations where you're lacking judgment. But the restaurant industry is, and I see this as a positive, only because as a manager right now, look, and eventually I want to go into teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I would like to teach CEGEP history to start, and then eventually I want to gain some experience and do a PhD and possibly teach at university level. That's my plan and my goal. It's been my plan and my goal for ever since I started doing my master, or ever since I said that I wanted to do a master's degree. Right, that was my progression. And being a manager is kind of related in a way.
Yeah, you're coaching people.
Right? You're coaching people. You're giving people directions. You're telling them, where they're wrong, what they're doing right, what they're, there's a public speaking aspect to it as well, right? Like, I have to give a briefing for the morning shift and for the night shift.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be able to speak eloquently in order for your co-workers and for your employees to understand you, what, like, the direction in which the shift is going to go, what's available in the kitchen, what's not available in the kitchen, what's missing at the bar, like things like that. Like if there's any event in the city that we have to possibly be aware of because it might get busy. If there's whatever is happening, right? So you have to be able to communicate those things to your staff. And being in a managerial position, uh, if you can manage a staff, you can manage a classroom.
Right.
I mean, like it's I see those things as inherently related. Obviously not like fully, but there are certain aspects that are certain skills that are transferable,
Right.
And those are things that I really appreciate about the restaurant industry. Like obviously, like the work ethic aspect has obviously it's formed me and it's formed my ability to, let's say sit down and write a paper, for example. I consider that work ethic in terms of determination very much related to whatever you can do after, right? Like whether it's academia, whether it's and that work ethic has transferred over to my academic life. And no, but very, very, very formative. I think that everyone, for a point in their life, should work in the restaurant industry. I just think we have to all experience it, only because of the amount of it can cause tension. It's a jungle, like I said.
Yeah.
So it's an experience that everyone should go through, and I think that if you can get a job, even part time, man, it's very. I think you should do it.
I mean, I think at the bottom line, it's certainly gratifying, despite the the hurdles and the fact, like I don't think it's a secret anymore. Like the pay wages could, in my opinion, be higher for
Sure. Yeah.
in that industry because
Yeah.
of how fast paced and because of the toll that it might take on
Yeah.
people. Tempers may flare. The drama among employees might happen. That kind of shit, which I've come to accept at 28 that it's part of, like, conflict is a fundamental part of life. I detest conflict. I hate conflict, but sometimes I feel like conflict is inevitable. It's just a matter of knowing how to mitigate it and to navigate the hot waters, and you've probably seen your fair share in the restaurant business as well.
Definitely. I've been involved in certain conflicts with customers and non-customers, like people who have just come like from the outside and coming into the restaurant and demanding certain things, and I've had to like just send them away because of either they're like super drunk or something, and they're babbling and they're starting to be aggressive or whatever. And
what were they demanding? Like, do you have any examples of?
Well, dude, I had an experience with someone a couple of weeks ago who this was around it was a Wednesday night, okay, and usually the doors of the restaurant are locked after the last person leaves.
Mm-hmm.
On a Wednesday night, the restaurant closes at around midnight, I would say, or like 11:30. By 11:30, there shouldn't be anyone else in the restaurant, right? There shouldn't be anyone there shouldn't be any customers in the restaurant. Sorry.
Okay, so there's like 11:30 p.m. So it doesn't go into the morning hours.
No.
Okay.
Except for on Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays. Sometimes it's open a bit later.
Gotcha.
But Wednesday, and for some reason, at around 1:00 in the morning, I hadn't locked the front door. So I was a manager that was closing that night, and I hadn't locked the front door. And there was a drunk guy that came in, and he was like, "Can I use your bathroom?" And I was like, "Unfortunately, you can't use my bathroom." I didn't want to deny him for the bathroom, you know what I mean? But like at 1:00 in the morning, there shouldn't be anyone else coming inside. That's my fault. I should have locked the front door. But like he wouldn't have been able to open the front door anyway had it been locked, right? So
right.
He came in. He was like, "Hey, can I use the bathroom?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, you really can't, like, because you're not you're technically not allowed to be here right now.
Right. Yeah.
Like I don't want to be that guy, but like you can't."
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And like if I put myself in his position, you
Yeah.
know, if you need to do your business,
Yeah.
it's stressful.
Yeah.
Honestly.
It is stressful. So he was angry.
Yeah.
And I was trying to explain to him, like, I understand. I'm sorry. But I can't let you in right now.
Okay.
And so he started swearing at me.
Oh,
he started saying a whole bunch of things, you know, calling me names.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I also reacted.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I swore back.
Yeah.
And
as you should, to defend yourself.
Yes. So. I swore back, and he came into my face. And we were close to, you know, like the 20-year-old in me would have, you know, probably taken him by the throat and just, you know, like pushed him away.
Yeah.
But I wanted to see what was going to happen, because technically, so at work we have cameras, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
So in the eyes of, let's say, the head office, who will, or my director, who is going to look back at the cameras, if I tell them to, and to just tell them about the interaction that we had or whatever, if I touch him, right, I'm at fault. If he touches me first, I'm allowed to retaliate.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So I didn't want to touch him just in case something happened, because he's not a customer, but like he kind of is,
well, and
in
he's
a
drunk,
way.
right, as well. Like he's also drunk, so he's out of his mind.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So, you know, I wanted to see where this was going to go. I mean, he came into my face. He started saying a whole bunch of, you know, obscenities and all that. And I told him to F off and all that. And, you know,
you can swear on the podcast.
I can swear on the podcast?
I do, like, I've been swearing on the podcast.
Yeah? Oh, yeah, you did swear once before. But anyway. Well, he told me
I
to
don't
fuck
want to feel
off.
like you're restraining yourself. Like, if you need to let it out, just...
Yeah.
I'm not trying to propel you to sin or anything. But anyway, it's your choice. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, he told me to fuck off, and then that just, like, my blood just started boiling, and I was like, okay, bro, you gotta chill. His boys came in and just, like, dragged him out. They're like, I'm really sorry, he's drunk. Like, I'm like, and one of them stayed inside to explain. I was like, dude, you understand that, like, I'm not trying to be an asshole here. Like,
right.
I'm just trying to tell you that the door would have been locked. You wouldn't have been able to come in. So you can't go pee. Mm-hmm. Like,
find somewhere else.
Sorry, man. Yeah. Like,
go home.
No, but I mean, it's like, in essence, it's that, right? Like, Crescent Street, like, just go to an alleyway or something. Like, I don't know.
Hopefully, it's not number 2, but you know.
No, it's not. Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah. He said he had to use the bathroom, so I don't know what it was for. But
well, it's probably because he was drunk and he had too much to drink. So
probably, yeah. But yeah, no, those are the difficult situations that you have to deal with when you're a manager. It's trying to be diplomatic when people don't want you to be diplomatic, who are trying to, you know, just have their way, and you have to tell them, sorry, but you can't have your way.
Yeah.
Like, I know an example for I was at one of the supervisors at my restaurant, because we have certain hierarchical things where if you're part of the management team, you're a supervisor, then you can become a manager, and then you become a director. Mm-hmm. So one of the supervisors had to deny these 3 drunk guys one night because they were too drunk, like, and they're just going to get even more drunk if they come inside, and then who knows what's going to happen. So we had to tell them, like, and we have the right to deny, like, as any bar or establishment, if you're too fucked up, like, and you go to a bar and you say stupid things, mm-hmm. anyone can deny you service.
Oh yeah, for
you know
sure.
What I mean?
Yeah,
like,
especially if it's the business owner.
Yeah.
Okay, you can.
And so, the supervisor denied service to these 3 people, and they beat him up, like they beat him
at your restaurant.
Yes.
Holy schmuck!
They beat him.
How many?
They took him outside. It was 3 guys against 1. They took him and they beat him. They took him outside and they beat him.
Really?
I swear.
Well, when did that happen?
during Christmas time or something like that.
Okay, so around the holidays, like not too
Yeah.
long ago.
Yeah.
And is it something that may happen often? Like, is it?
Well, I mean, it
regular
could
event?
it could lead to it if, again, we talked about, after a certain time, you, you get a lack of judgment.
Right.
Your brain doesn't function properly, and whatever, you might be tired, you might be whatever. If you're drinking, then at one point you're not thinking straight. So these people were probably not thinking straight, and they said, you know what, let me just go beat someone up.
Shit.
And so yeah, that's what happened, and it's unfortunate that we have to deal with these sorts of situations in the industry, because it could, like, I had to tell someone the other day to not vape in the restaurant.
Okay. Yeah, that's another.
That's considered smoking.
Yeah, that's another dossier in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like, vaping.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know what comes to mind.
Well,
where you think you are.
They're probably thinking, oh, it's not a cigarette, so I might be allowed to vape because it's maybe less toxic. But then again, in the news, it's coming out as just as toxic as cigarettes.
Yeah.
Or, smoking is just as bad for your lungs, and so again, lack of judgment. So
anyway, but yeah, so it's a we have to deal with those sorts of things in the restaurant industry, and these things they form you. They form you as a person, and how to react and how to not react, and how to properly judge these situations. And all that to say, I think everyone should eventually work in the restaurant industry, at least for part of their life. So.
Well, I mean, does the bistro in IGA, does that count as a restaurant?
Bistro in IGA, I mean, hey, like, sure, why not? Yeah, you can count that.
It's not as fast paced though. It's not as stressful. I mean, it's like probably a tenth of the level of stress that you guys have.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's as much restaurant business that I've actually done. I have waited a few tables when we had like events at church in the ballroom that they have downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
So I have like waited tables and catered food and whatnot. That's pretty much it. But like, yeah, no, I do tip my hat to you, and folks that work in the restaurant industry, because like I see them going around, and I've had friends and colleagues who had worked in that industry tell me how like stressful
it's wild, man.
It's wild.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, it is intoxicating because they find a thrill, or they find it fun and enjoyable, especially the bar business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about one particular bartender that really enjoyed that type of business, because she really felt suckered into that business, and because it's an addictive type of lifestyle for some people.
Yeah.
But then again, like, no, it is wild. But
yeah.
But yeah, I'm also actually pretty excited to perhaps work as a teacher one day. And get into the teaching business. I do tutoring on the side with a particular company, and
that helps.
Yeah.
It helps a lot.
I racked up about 315 hours thus far, so which is 315 hours of teaching, which does count.
What are you tutoring?
I tutor. I tutor English, French, math, science, and what else do I tutor? A bit of chemistry.
Okay.
Well, so from time to time. And I just purchased a higher education teaching course with Harvard. Yeah. Recently.
Okay, is it the Harvard Bach?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, because I was thinking of doing that.
Right.
And because what I want to do, it's just like obviously I want to teach and all that. And I was thinking of doing the C Teach.
I'm also in that.
You are in that.
I'm also in that as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you're doing both.
I'm doing both, but thing is, like, the C Teach is kind of on standby because I couldn't take it this semester. I started it in the fall.
Okay.
But I had to like wait now, and I have to wait until winter 24 to continue that one. So I'm thinking, okay, well, in the meantime, why would I waste time? I'll just purchase this expensive Harvard class.
Yeah, it was like $2,000 or so, maybe more. Right?
It's actually just over $3,000, maybe $3,200. But I took the Women's Day discount, so they chopped off about $660, so it went down to $2,600. So I bought it for $2,600. I'm actually starting today. So today, tomorrow, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
so it's an 8-week class. So
can you let me know how it is? Because I may have wanted to do it, but I've, in my mind it was like, it's either you do that or you do the C-Teach.
Right. And here I am
So,
doing.
You're doing both,
is...
So I mean, how is the C-Teach though? Because I wanted to do it, and I still want to do it. Because if I don't get a job, in teaching, let's say, in the fall, because I'm gonna apply to certain CJEPs.
Right.
I'm in their like notification emails.
Right.
Like I'm part of the notification center. Like I get like emails for like job opportunities and all that, and there are opportunities. Not always in my field.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Champlain and Dawson have been the institution that I've gotten the most emails from in terms of opportunities in teaching history.
Right.
Vanier a bit every now and then. I made a formal application to Marianopolis.
Okay.
Marianopolis is a good school. If you can get there and teach there, for the time being, or even as like a career, like for the rest of your life, like
private school, so more bucks.
Yeah. And I just thought that the C-Teach was a good thing for me. Not long. I think it's like a year or something you can take, and maybe a year and a half or something like that, or I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the way that they smeared it is it takes a year and a half, but it's actually 15 credits that they. So you can't take all 15 credits in 1 or 2 semesters. So you have 2 theoretical courses and 3 practical courses, from what I recall, or it's either three theoretical and 2 practical, like either or. So you take 1 in the fall, 1 in the winter, then 1 in the summertime, and then you have some sort of internships where you get to like practice your skills in a practical sense. So you get to teach live, which is cool. So I took the first theoretical class. I couldn't take the second one this winter, so I have to wait till next winter. So that's why that kind of prompted me to be like, okay, well, if you guys are spreading it out, 15 credits over a year and a half, might as well pay a bit more money and do the Harvard class in 8 weeks and have that badge on my CV to apply, and I can use that as a silver bullet, to compete with other prospective professors to get the job. And I wish everybody can get a job. It's just that academia seems to have very few opportunities in teaching, so the more you can stand out in your profile, the better. So that's why I'm paying $2,600 to get that Harvard accreditation. But yeah, like C-Teach, I would say it's not super difficult. I'll tell you my experience really briefly. I think it's a nice all-around type of class to enlighten you regarding what it is to teach adults and CEGEP level kids, like 17 to 20-year-olds. They even tell you about the different types of positions that you get, that you may get, like if you're an LTA, limited time appointee, or a tenured professor, whatnot, and the salary range for each. So I didn't really know how much people get paid. Now I kind of do, thanks to that class. And they tell you how to write like a teaching proposal statement, a teaching philosophy statement, and basically how to have a portfolio with documents that you may need to present to universities or CEGEPs or whatever if you want to teach them. And I think you're on the right track. I mean, you're going to defend your thesis, which is going to be done deal, and you're going to get that in your pocket. So having an MA, I think you're definitely going to be well equipped. If you want to get like a teaching graduate diploma, I know UDM offers one, like a 1 semester compacted diploma. C-Teach
in English or in French?
In French, I think.
Yeah.
And like if you can teach in French, given that we're in Quebec, try as best you can to apply to like history or philosophy departments as well. Since unfortunately there's no theology programs at the same level. I wish there were theology courses. and CEGEP, for some reason they don't. They
Yeah.
should start doing it.
They should.
Because and that's one of my projects with Concordia is I'm on the recruitment team, so now I'm going to be visiting CEGEPs like Vanier, Abbott, Dawson, even French CEGEP like Maisonneuve, because apparently some kids are coming over from French schools and presenting the department. That's super
Good,
exciting.
man. I like that.
So yeah, I mean, anything that you can do, like you can start. Hopefully, you start teaching CEGEPs early on, and at the same time do your PhD. Right, that could be a nice way to go. I mean, your time's gonna be full, but like at the same time, it's gonna be nice.
Of course, and that's what I had also had in mind. To be honest with you, if I didn't want to, but you see, I recently made an inquiry to one of the professors who will be on my examining committee for my MA. Her name is Dr. Shannon McSheffrey. She's a medieval historian in the history department. And she told me, I gave her like a quick rundown of like what I wanted to do after my MA, and I was like, this is an important step.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Just gonna shut the door.
Yeah.
Yes. Keep going.
Yeah.
It's actually your supervisor's
Oh,
right
yeah.
there.
Is he there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Put the book here because the thing is, the door doesn't want to stay shut. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying that you talk.
Yeah. Sorry.
Shannon?
I got a bit distracted.
That's all right.
She will be on my examining committee, and I told her about like my progression and what I wanted to do for post MA. I was like, I want to do a PhD, but these are the topics that I want to possibly talk about and possibly study. And she gave me and she's good at this. She gave me like a constructive no on like what, not a constructive no, it was sort of like oh nice. Yeah,
we're dealing with a whole bunch of
yeah
things. I don't know what the email was saying, but the transition for the union, which is another conversation.
Yeah, but she gave me like, she's like, you, in order for you to actually be successful and to do the PhD properly, you have to have certain like tools and skills before applying to the PhD, because they're gonna test you on certain things.
Which PhD is it exactly? Then?
So I want to do a PhD in medieval history.
Okay.
I know that the University of Toronto has the Center for Medieval Studies, and I know that UBC, University of British Columbia, also has a very good medieval studies program. Those two are the best in the country, if I want to stay in Canada. Vancouver is expensive, and so is Toronto. So I don't know what I'm going to do in that regard, but who knows what will happen in the next couple of years. She told me that for the topic, the topic that I think is like of primary importance and the one that I want to potentially like do my PhD in, she's like, there aren't that many teachers outside of the UK that specialize in that sort of thing. So I was like, okay. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'll go to the UK with my girlfriend. What happens there, I don't necessarily know if I'll go through with it. But it'd be a good opportunity if I ever have the chance to do it. She also said that I need to brush up on my Latin. And I took an intro to Latin 1 and 2, because I have a degree in classics as well. So I have a double major in classics.
Yeah, I was going to ask like what your undergrad was, but yeah.
Yeah, so I did my undergraduate degree in history and classics, a double major. And in the classics major, I took an intro to Latin 1 and 2. But that's an intro. It's very basic. Like I was able to potentially read and maybe, write. Base level stuff. She's like, your Latin has to be high level, has to be very good. So I have to get my Latin up to par. And she also said that I have to do I have to have knowledge in paleography. Paleography and manuscript studies. I mean, you kind of understand what it is, right? It's like it's the study of old texts,
Okay.
old manuscripts. In order to read historical documents from the time, you have to know how to, handle a manuscript, how to, decipher it, because the language might be confusing. It might not necessarily stand out as a modern text. There might be certain writing technicalities that people of the time use in order to write an S, for example, right? Like it wasn't as straightforward as it is today.
Right.
It's it looks different, and as you can probably guess, like medieval texts and manuscripts, like the writing is like super compact. I don't know if you can have that like idea in your head, or you can visualize that. So
They're very close together in the writing.
Exactly.
It's hard to decipher sometimes.
exactly, so you have to know how to do that in order to analyze documents from the time period. So those are three things that I have to uh, like develop and gain knowledge on them in order to proceed into the PhD. And so that was kind of like a heartbreaking moment in my. But she's specifically her and Dr. Rusley. They've put me in my place in certain things where like I've been overly ambitious sometimes, and overly eager to do the things that I want to do, and I have to realize that like I have to get to a certain point,
Right.
and I have to develop those skills, and I can't just apply to a PhD and you know what I mean, like
Yeah. I mean, I relate because I'm kind of that way too. Like I sometimes put the chariot before the horse, and I try to go too fast, and I had to be rectified
Yes.
by my supervisor sometimes. Like I'm under Dr. Gagne.
Yeah.
Super great relationship with him.
Great.
Just a great bond and all.
Great prof. Yeah.
But at one point we had to because I wanted to start my PhD next year in the fall, and he told me, okay, well, hold your horses a bit. We need to talk about a few things, especially with having a thesis defense committee, because I had already emailed a bunch of people from the philosophy department or religion department, I can't remember which, in January to ask them to be my supervisors for my PhD, and I'm not even done. I haven't even written my master's thesis.
Yeah.
So
and don't underestimate that, by the way. Eh? Don't underestimate the writing process of your master's thesis, because that's gonna, and I'm telling you from experience, that took me, mind you, it was on and off for me. That took me like 7 months. I'm not even kidding. So but that's just 7 months of writing, and then there's the editing process that you have to do back and forth with your supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to take like a week or two.
Sure. Well,
so I'm just putting it out there for you. Like, and I didn't mean to dash your dreams, but like just being very like giving advice as much as I can. So yeah.
I mean, for sure. Yes. And yeah, like I know that's going to be my focus for this coming summertime. Despite that, I'm taking outside of my master's, because I have like I did my bachelor's in biochem, but then I took a year of working, and I would say ever since 2013 or 14, I've been in school full time, except for that 1 year between 2018 and 19, like when I graduated.
Yeah.
But then I went to McGill. I wanted to do business, so I did certificates in marketing and management, and I thought I was gonna get into an MBA program. Got refused from that. Applied for an MA in theological studies. Got accepted here. I was like, okay. I had one theology class from my undergrad as an elective in my pocket. It was Theo 203 with Dr. Matthew Anderson. That was it. That's all I knew about theology. So I took their adaptation courses, just at their their preliminary courses to get into the MA. So I was doing that at the same time as my MA in my first year. But thinking about my thesis, I actually knew what my thesis was going to be about. I think after my first year doing my MA, and that's when I knew I had to refine everything. And last night I presented my research proposal in Theo 603 with Dr. Jameson, and I was able to present concisely and clearly what my thesis is going to be about. But I know that for the next few months, I'm going to be working on my thesis. And that's the thing. Like, I take a lot of courses outside of class as well. Like,
Yeah.
C-Teach is great. It's just that it's not theology. It's like another skill that you're adding.
Yeah.
It's another feather to your cap, right? So I'm taking that. I'm taking the public speaking course as well because I like these 10-week classes that Concordia Continuing Education offers. And I highly recommend, like you or anyone else, especially at the graduate level, take these courses.
Yeah.
If you have time for it, like take it because they really brush up on your extracurricular skills.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
The public speaking, like I always thought that I was actually a pretty decent public speaker in terms of like, you know, my like the frequency of which I speak, like the tone or whatever. But for some reason, there are times where, like, you know, the nerves creep in, and that's why I know we spoke off the record about public or private thesis defense.
Right. Yeah.
I unfortunately I decided to do it privately only because, like, for some reason, on top of having 3 scholars,
right,
who are knowledgeable in, mind you, 2 are really knowledgeable in the field, and 1, yes, he obviously, I mean, I'm talking about Dr. Jachesko, I mean, he doesn't necessarily, I mean, I could be wrong, but he's not a medievalist, from what I understand. He's like a patristic scholar, so but he understands heresy, so that's why I chose him to be there, and on top of having 3 very good scholars, you know, who are there talking to you, questioning you about why you wrote certain things and how you did it in that way, I thought to me it was going to be a bit nervous to have, like, you know, let's say you, for example, and like Casey and
an audience,
Scott, and, you know, having all them, just Ridge, for example, just to be there and listen, because it's an added stressor, it's an added audience. Like, let's say, you know, I say something and someone doesn't understand, and I happen to glance at them and they're looking at me like, what's he talking about? It's gonna throw me off for some reason. I don't know why, but which is strange because I was at an academic conference like at the beginning of March, so right. Sometimes you're in your own thoughts and you're in your own head, and you underestimate your abilities. And I took a decision, and, you know, it is what it is.
I totally respect that. I think it's brave on you to actually, admit that particular reality and the whole mindset behind your choice, and it's definitely your thesis, right? So if you have the privilege to basically opt for a more private setting, then yeah, go for it. So it's less nerve-wracking, and even like if I were to ask myself the question, do I want an audience? Perhaps for my ego, yes, I would like to have an audience and to present, and I know that I'm quite a good public speaker, but still I have the humility to actually, have second thoughts. Having second thoughts is a sign of humility, in my opinion. Too many second thoughts, that could be a sign of fear, which is not something to have. You don't want to be fearful.
Yeah.
But like to have that courage or discernment to actually say, you know what, I'm going to keep this thing private, and I want to put the chances on my side to ensure success.
Exactly.
And afterwards, man, you have a freaking lifetime
exactly
to give as many talks about medieval history as you like. I mean, you're 31, I'm 28. Like I often, one of my flaws is that I don't realize how young I am. At 28, I'm like, okay, well, I got to get everything done before 30. Like I have 30, like looking me in the face, like, God damn it, I gotta get into the military now. Like,
you know what? I understand, man. I understand that. But this is something that I've been doing for some reason recently, and it's not something that I used to do a lot before. You know, I'm comparing myself, and like I know that I shouldn't compare myself.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, to others who have.
Everybody compares himself.
Everyone does, but I don't want to. You know what I mean? I don't want it to be like a defining factor in myself and be like, hey, like, you know, this guy did this, and I'm just here doing this. But I understand completely about what you're saying, because it's like, you know, you see people progressing, and then you see yourself also progressing, but like at a slower pace. Um, I wasn't serious about school until I started university, or until I got kicked out of CJEP when I was younger, and then I had to claw my way back in.
Okay.
Yeah, I was at Champlain College. I just screwed around, just didn't take it seriously. Got kicked out, because of not being serious, right? And I remember my parents, especially my father. My father's a Greek immigrant.
Oh.
Okay, so like, he was very angry. He was like, what? He pulled that whole thing, the whole guilt trip. He's like, I come from another country to give my son and my family a better opportunity, and you're here throwing it away, like, So
that's a hard pill to swallow, right?
Yeah, and it stuck with me. I had to understand and realize that, like, nothing is given.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is given.
Yeah.
Everything that you do and everything that you have it's a privilege that you have certain things. Education is a privilege. It's a privilege. It's not a right. Is that there is so many other people who want to have education, who want to be able to, just have that knowledge, and who don't have the opportunity to do it. While we have the opportunity, I'm here throwing it away, right? So it's like that made me more conscious of school and all the opportunities that it gives you. And so my last year at CJEP, I started becoming really serious about it, and I was like, I developed my grades in order to be able to come into university and do a degree. And I would say about maybe halfway through my bachelor's degree was when I told myself, like, hey, you really like this, you're good at this, think about a master's degree. And I met Dr. Rossley, and he was like, you should really do the degree, the master's degree in theology.
And if there's anyone that will straighten you up, it's him.
Definitely.
Like, and I've had my fair share as well. Like, having super warm guy, great guy, excellent coach, but he's gonna be a hard coach sometimes. And he's if anybody in the department, like, he's definitely, and it's good to have a guy like that. I think it's good to have a guy that will put people in their place when need be for their own good, right? So
he just has incredibly high standards, like his I've never seen like a person who is that committed and that, first of all, that knowledgeable about so many topics. Not just history, but everything. The man is a walking encyclopedia. I love him, truly. But he convinced me. He said, "You know what? He's like, if you really like the history of Christianity class, he's like, you should do the MA in theology." And I wrote a term paper in his class on the Albigensian Crusade, which is exactly what my thesis is on. It's on the history of Catholicism and the crusade that was called to eradicate it. I thought that topic was fascinating. I was like, I knew about crusades, right? Like, who does? And to be fair, crusading history is my favorite historical time period of all time. Just the thought process behind creating a crusade indulgence, right? We spoke
crusade
about
indulgence.
Yes, we spoke about that briefly at the Disputatio. I don't know if you remember. I think you were the one who asked me the question. A crusade indulgence is basically a creation of an indulgence. That cleanses you of your sin. And so fighting in the Holy Land against Muslim infidels was a way in which the Pope was able to one, do what he wanted to do in the East, which was conquer the East and have like some sort of Christian principalities there, uh, and provide aid to the Byzantines, who were being attacked by the Seljuk Turks in the late 11th century, early 12th century. And just the creation of a crusade indulgence and the thought process behind it, and how you manage to mobilize thousands of people to go east and fight in the name of God. That to me is astonishing. And then there's the Albigensian Crusade, where it's like, okay, you can do the exact same thing that you did in the East, but do it against heretics.
Mm-hmm.
And astonishing, really. Truly, like, just, that's why, like, the history of ideas is another thing that also interests me, especially in the Middle Ages. Just the thought process behind it. And the context behind this thought process, right? The political context, the social context, the religious context. How, like, these are things that, especially for that time period, these are things that stood out to me, and there's a reason why I decided to do my MA in that. And Dr. Rossley was like, the Albigensian Crusade, it's a thing that's been written on a lot, but you can tackle it from a different perspective. So, which is exactly what I did. I looked at first of all, trying to define heresy, mm-hmm. and understand it within a medieval context. I tried to then talk about the influences, potential influences and beliefs of Cathars, and how they relate to possible ancient heresies like Manichaeism, for example,
right,
or Bogomilism, for example,
like Gnostic, right? Movements.
Gnostic movements, okay. Right? And then I talk about the religious justification for the crusade, and then also the military justification for the crusade. But I look at 4 formative years in the history of the Languedoc, which is southern France, and how they managed to be really, really crucial for the development of heresy and crusade and all that, and the justification for armed conflict against heretics. Right, like how that came about. How did it derive from the crusade indulgence that happened 100 years prior? Right. So those are the things that really stood out to me for that specific historical topic, and I'm really grateful for Dr. Rossley. He pushed me. He was like, "Yes, you could do an MA in history." And I was like, "Well, I really want to do the MA in history." And he's like, "You could, but I'll be your supervisor. We'll tackle the topic of heresy together. We'll do the Albigensian Crusade, and you'll be able to, to see it from a different point of view." That's why the theology department, for me, like if I could have, again, like I said, I could have done an MA in history, but I think that the MA in theology has given me a different perspective.
Right.
And I do eventually want to do the PhD in history, so the MA in theology will give me, just a different mindset, just a different way of tackling certain topics, and I think I'm inherently grateful for the opportunity. Yeah.
It's good. I mean, it's good. So I think you have a clear idea of the path you want to go down.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at future studies, your ambitions for what types of works you want to do, what type of work you want to actually work in, and it's important at this time, to know like what line of work you really want to make sure that you're going to get into. Not saying that it's going to be the rest of your life, right? But
I would like it to be.
Right. I mean, I think a lot of people like that stability, but the reality is, especially our generation, I feel like we are super elusive in terms of career paths. I'm getting emails all the time.
Yeah, I know. I see
I'm just
that.
eyeballing my screen.
No, it's okay.
It's good. I'm getting emails, everybody. It's communication. So yeah, I think we're no longer of the breed of people or the generation of people where folks would stick with a particular job for 25 to 30 years. I personally can't do that to myself. I raise my hat to anybody who can stick 20, 30 years with one particular job that has a list of 10 bullet points for the job description, and that's it. Like, I need change. Like, I don't mind perhaps, let's say, being a professor, but then being a visiting professor to, I don't know, somewhere in the States, somewhere in Europe, somewhere in Asia. Like, having that mix and match versatility, I think, is crucial for me to enjoy my life and work at something that is enjoyable. I'm not sure if you can relate to that.
No, absolutely. And you said visiting professor, and that's sort of like, like this light bulb just appeared, and that's something that I want to do. I mean, I love traveling. I mean, who doesn't love to travel?
I
right?
freaking love traveling.
And I always wanted to go. I always wanted to study in Scotland.
Scotland, okay. Why that? Why Scotland?
I don't know. Just first of all, the scenery is just phenomenal.
My sister's been to Scotland in England. 2 summers ago.
Yeah, I've been to England. I went to England in January 2020.
Right before the pandemic.
Yes, right before, exactly. But I didn't go to Scotland, and I haven't had the opportunity to go. But when I do, I would just. I actually made an application to the University of Edinburgh and the University of Glasgow for an MA in history. Before starting the MA here in theology, I wanted to be in the country, you know what I mean? Like, I wanted to be there, and if ever I did an MA in let's say, because I'm doing my topic is on southern France, and so I made an application. Well, I made like a request to the Bibliothèque Municipale de Toulouse to go to their archives to study certain, documents of the time period in order for me to relate it to my thesis.
Right.
And I got denied, which is fine. Like, I'm okay with it. It kind of hurt in the.
But why did they deny?
They said that I wasn't far along. I wasn't far enough in my program in order for me to go and study the archives, which was kind of like a BS excuse. But like, I understand. But all this to say, like, I wanted to be like in there,
right? Like
dans le champ, you know what I mean? Like on the ground, studying visiting the sites that I'm studying. And for some reason, I've always really been fascinated with Anglo-Scottish and Anglo-Irish relations in the Middle Ages. That's one of the areas that I really, really one of the areas of history that I really, really enjoy. All the turmoil between Ireland and Scotland with England, right?
Yeah.
So I said to myself, if ever I decide to just, I don't know, switch somehow in my MA and do like a thesis in medieval Scottish history and the relations with England, I want to go there, and I want to be there. I want to go visit the sites. I want to go to and so Scotland was a place that I really wanted to visit, and being a visiting professor there would be great if I can get the opportunity to do it. And even Ireland, right? Like, England. Maybe even Italy, Greece, Spain. Things like that. Like,
have you ever been to Greece, by the way?
I have been to Greece.
I've
been to Greece many times, which is great. It's a great opportunity. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to have gone and to visit family and to see all the ancient ruins. Yeah. Great stuff, man. So have you been to Greece?
I've never been to Greece. I'm not Greek, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
My folks are my parents are Lebanese.
Nice.
Actually, yeah, because I'm very Canadian, but from Toronto, grew up in Montreal, so I'm much more Canadian than Lebanese ethnically, or not ethnically, no, more culturally. But yeah, ethnically, I do have a Lebanese heritage. Yeah. I've been to Lebanon a couple of times.
Nice. Do you speak Arabic?
I do speak a bit of Arabic.
Nice.
Because my parents are also immigrants. Also,
nice.
So, yeah, but my first language is English. Obviously, I had to pick up French at around 6 or 7 when I came from Toronto to Montreal.
Nice.
But right before starting the MA, I bounced around in Europe. Like I went to different countries. I've been to Italy. I've been to the Vatican. Wonderful place. I really recommend anybody who's not only Christian, Muslim, Jewish, whatever. Like the Vatican has such a mystique to it. It's just so grandiose of a place. It's the fourth greatest, the fourth biggest museum or something in the world. The first one being in China.
I'll be going this summer.
Oh, it's the Vatican. Yeah, you're really gonna like it.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be your first time, I'm guessing. Like,
first time in Italy.
Yeah, first time in Italy. Yeah. I only spent like 1 day in Italy, and it was Rome and the Vatican the same day. So I was like just rushing through, but I enjoyed every moment of it. And so yeah, I've been to France actually, to Lourdes, down south in the Pyrenees. Like I think it's near the Cathar area.
Yeah.
Actually.
Exactly.
Paris, Lourdes, Austria, Poland. I spent a couple of days in Poland.
Nice.
Auschwitz. I visited Auschwitz firsthand.
That must have been crazy.
Pretty grim, I would say. It wasn't a happy place, but sometimes not all experiences have to be happy. Some of them are intellectually stimulating,
of course.
Some of Vipassana, for example, is a place in western Quebec, near the Montebello area. Like people don't go there to be happy. It's a place where you go there to be in silence for 10 days. I think Ridge did the experience. So there are these kind of experiences where you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go to places like Auschwitz to learn about that place.
Definitely.
Even how sad it is.
Definitely. You have to. Yeah. I mean, those are experiences that everyone has to. I mean, because we understand the legacy of Nazism and Nazi history. Like we know like what they did, and it wasn't that long ago.
Right.
Right. So like experiencing, feeling that. In the going to the place where like one of the worst concentration camps, if not the worst concentration camp in all of Nazi history, like just being embedded in that and experiencing that, it changes you, and it gives you a different perspective.
Yeah, they did walk us around in the bunkers and the gas chambers and all that.
That's crazy, man.
It's and they still have the barbed wire on the fences and all that. So it's like they smartly decided to keep things as is because they knew that for the tourism industry it would be an interesting place to go to. So I'm thinking they probably knew that okay, well, if we're going to just bring everything to the ground, like all the bunkers and the chambers and whatever, like there wouldn't be any historical site left for people to visit.
Exactly.
Right.
It gives it some authenticity, right? Like I know in Montreal, like you probably noticed, like we have like like plaques and stuff of like certain things, like on this day this thing happened or this person erected this building because, but like the plaques are great, but if you can actually visit the site, the physical site, it just adds a different dynamic and a different element to it. So yeah.
I mean, like visiting Auschwitz was definitely left its mark. But another one that really hit me hard was, in a happier sense, is Barcelona, the Sagrada Familia.
I went there as well.
Yeah, a great place.
Phenomenal.
They're still erecting it even higher.
Yeah,
like, they're making it even higher. And another place in Spain is Santiago, because
I didn't go to Santiago de Compostela. No, I didn't do the. Did you do the pilgrimage? Or?
I didn't do the pilgrimage. I saw people with their hand, like their sticks, walking around with their. I was like, okay, well, I'm here in the comfort of a tourist van.
Yeah.
And these people are just so exhausted. You can see in their face they're sweating. They're exhausted. They're barely walking. They're super tired.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, hats off to them because like. I'm not even sure if I would do that. I have a friend who's going to do it this summer.
That's a religious experience on its own, eh? That's
pretty much,
yeah.
Santiago and.
But no, man. Honestly, the Sagrada Familia, like, I recently I spoke about a paper at a conference for the AGIC, the annual graduate interdisciplinary conference.
Right.
and I spoke about medieval cathedrals and how they're edifices of applied theology, and how, like, visiting them is like, it's a religious experience,
Yeah.
because they could house relics, they could, whatever, just the artistic stuff behind it is just fascinating. And you mentioned Sagrada Familia, and Sagrada Familia is built in Neo-Gothic,
Really, yeah.
right? And but in a very intricate Neo-Gothic, though. Like, the carvings are insane.
Yeah.
The you enter the church, just all the stained glass, it's just majestic.
It's absolutely beautiful place to go to.
It's an experience.
Yeah.
And so, physical remnants of historical of a historical past are better than, like, not having them at all, right? Because, like, you can actually go to the site where, this person was 5,000 years ago. Not 5,000 there, but, like, you get about what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Like, my mom went crazy when she knew that she was standing over St. Peter's relics, which you don't actually see the relics. So
Yeah.
for skeptics, it's like, okay, well, are they actually there? But, like, in the Vatican, when you go to St. Peter's Basilica,
Yeah.
You go all the way to the front. It's huge, by the way, and
Yeah.
there's this place where there's like a stairway which is closed off for the public. Like, you can only peer down.
Yeah.
And they have, like, candles around that area. You don't see any tomb or anything.
Yeah.
But she was so grateful that she had to stand right above St. Peter's relics. And,
Yeah.
and St. Peter, he's a massive father of the church.
Of course, absolutely.
So she was delighted in that aspect, because I went only with me and my mom to Sagrada and Vatican. All the other European countries that I did, like Austria, I even went to Portugal, like, for 8 days.
Yeah,
in
I've been as
Fatima.
well. It was really nice. I love Portugal. Severely underrated country. Yeah.
Did you go to Fatima?
I didn't go to Fatima. I didn't go to. I haven't done any pilgrimage sites. I actually went to a pilgrimage site in Quebec, in Saint-Anne-de-Beaupré.
Yeah.
Beautiful cathedral, by the way. And
For me, it's been so long, but yeah, sorry, go ahead.
But no, sorry. I didn't participate in the pilgrimage. Only because it's Catholic, and not that, like, I wouldn't participate in it, but it's just like, if I do participate in a pilgrimage, it would be to the Holy Sepulchre.
Where's that?
That's in Jerusalem.
Oh,
the Church
okay,
of the
yeah.
Holy Sepulchre.
Yeah.
I'm
kind of banned from Israel, I think, because I have Lebanese stamps on the passport. I think that's what I heard.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm renewing my passport in August of 2024, so which is not that bad. But apparently, because, like, thing is, what happened though is, because I really want to go to Israel, but if you have, because I think they're not, there's, like, bad blood between
Lebanon and Israel.
Yeah, for a myriad of reasons, which I think are stupid. But anyway, what kind of I'm not sure if I'm banned, but I think I'm banned from Israel, because when I had a layover in Jordan on my way to Lebanon about 5 years ago, the gates where you wait to get onto the airplane, like the tunnel. Like all the airports have the same structure for some reason. The guy at the gate was like, okay, so you don't have any Israeli stamps on your passport. I'm like, no, I don't have any Israeli stamps. Okay, you're clear to go. You can go ahead. So I couldn't go to Lebanon if I had Israeli stamps. So I'm pretty sure it's reciprocal. Like, if you have Lebanese stamps, you can't go to Israel. And I do have Lebanese stamps on my passport. But I mean, if that's the case, I'll just go to Israel after 2024, right?
Yeah.
Which is a weird thing. Like, being banned from a country is kind of a weird thing, you know.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. No, it's it's a weird thing. But yeah, like, when I did my Europe tour a month after going to the Vatican with my mom, I was on my own, for about 3 weeks, just having my own hotel room.
That's amazing, man.
But obviously, if you're going to Italy, I'm assuming you're going with your girlfriend, so that would be
absolutely.
A nice couple experience. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to that. And she was the one who was like, Well, I mean, I obviously knew that we have to go to the Vatican, right? Like, I mean, it's you can't not go to the Vatican,
Yeah.
right? But she was like, "Yeah, you're really gonna love the Vatican and like the museum and all the like the tombs and stuff of are there people? Are there? I don't know who's physically buried in the Vatican, or like in terms of like great historical figures. Like I'm not entirely sure, but you said something about the relics of Saint Peter. That's massive. I don't know anyone else who's buried there. To be honest with you.
I mean, that's a very. I'm sure Italy has a lot of saints that are buried.
Probably
somewhere.
around there.
Like
Yeah.
Saint Francis of Assisi is probably buried in Assisi. I'm not even sure if he's buried in Assisi, but I'm assuming he is. But yeah, I think there are a number of saints that have relics in Italy. I'm not sure where Saint Paul is buried. I'm assuming. I know Saint John the Evangelist. He lived in Greece, but he was buried in Izmir, Turkey.
Yeah, he's from Patmos.
Yeah. What was he? Was he exiled to Patmos, or is he? Well, I think he's from Israel.
I think he was exiled. I think he was, or I don't know if he was. He may have been exiled to Patmos. But yeah, there's like you can go visit like the cave in which he wrote in and everything, and
Right.
which is crazy. Which is eventually I would love to go to Patmos for that. They built a church on it and like our church next to it, and which yeah, I mean we know about Revelation, right? Like that's scary.
That's my wheelhouse right there. Like eschatology, the Book of Revelation, the Apocalypse, the end times. Like that's like, my whole master's thesis in one sentence is basically I'm comparing Catholics and evangelicals regarding eschatology, like the Book of Revelation, the Apocalypse, and how it impacts society today. Right. So that's
insane. That's a great that's a great topic.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. So I mean. Thanks by the way. It's been a long way, just a long time coming to actually narrow it down to that particular question because, like you, I'm kind of over ambitious. Sometimes I just want to put my hands all over the place, but like
of course,
it's harder to narrow it down. I mean we're nearing the end, honestly, of the podcast.
Yeah.
I was thinking about what could be my last question for Stathi, and since you're soon to be an OG, after April 18th. I mean, what would be a nice message that you might have for folks that are aspiring to get into theology or that want to do an MA, like whatever field that may be, like any educational advice or even life advice that you might have for them?
I'm going to break down your question sequentially. I think that anyone should do the degree in theology. Like I said, I was hesitant at first. I came into it with like you, little to no knowledge. I had taken 2 or 3 theology courses. Dr. Rossi's History of Medieval Christianity. I took the Intro to Theology, and I had taken, I think, I can't remember which one. I think it was Dr. Cercescu's Origins of Christianity. And I had an idea of theology, of like what it was as a discipline. And it was only Dr. Rossi who was like, no, it's interdisciplinary.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you can tackle it from a historical perspective, sociological perspective, anthropological perspective, like whatever, you name it. Philosophical, right? Things like that. And that sort of reassured me. And my trepidation, right, going into the degree was sort of like nullified because of the advice that I was given. And if there's anything that I can say is just like, look, take everything as it comes, because at times I didn't follow that particular train of thought. Take everything as it comes. Try and learn try and learn as much as you can, obviously, right? Like learn as much as you can. Like never stop learning. Ask questions. Don't be scared to put yourself out there if you're a person who doesn't like public speaking or whatever, or who's shy, or there's a lot of people in this department that were very open and were very understanding of differences, whatever they were, and the people who I met along the way, you included, have really you guys have put you marked me, and I wrote that in my acknowledgements, in my thesis acknowledgements.
It really warms my heart.
Yeah. So, but look, it's a great environment. It's a great department. I've gained so much knowledge, so much, like a wealth of knowledge, and I would be happy to discuss it further with someone who is coming into the program, who's scared, who's unsure of theology, and who's unsure of, like, let's say, being successful in the program.
Right.
I didn't think I was. I had taken Dr. Gagne and Dr. Dion's Intro to Biblical Studies class.
605?
I think it's 605. That was extremely intimidating. Like, but I said to myself, like, you have to do it in order for you to succeed. And I did well in the end, but it was extremely intimidating. Like, the first couple of classes, I was like, I was scared, but I learned to internalize certain fears, and then internalize them, but like not to let them like rot inside of you. You know what I mean? Just to tell yourself that you can do it. You can do whatever you can, whatever you set your mind to, and that's not just in theology. That's in every aspect of life, right? Like, whatever you put your mind to, whatever you set on, whatever ideas you have for your success and for your plans and goals, you can do them. Like, no one should be able to tell you otherwise. You're the only one that can tell yourself, I can't do this.
That's right.
But you can also tell yourself that you can do it, right?
Yeah.
So, I think that those are important things that anyone should do, and I encourage them to do the degree in theology.
Right.
Because I would do it all over again.
And it's funny how many friends and acquaintances I have that come either from engineering or the sciences or other, like, English lit, that have opted to do the MA in theology, or just a certificate. One of my friends is doing a certificate with the Montreal Grant Seminary, and he's an electrical engineer. Like, he works full time as an electrical engineer, but he's taking these classes slowly but surely. So yeah, I, just to echo your points, I'm a firm believer that theology stretches into a whole myriad of different disciplines.
Absolutely.
Like sociology, anthropology, history, English lit, psychology, like, even especially philosophy. It's a cousin to philosophy, in my opinion. So yeah, I would highly recommend even folks from those fields, especially primarily them, but also like folks even in the sciences, because coming from the hard sciences, oftentimes we have a very rigid way of thinking.
Definitely.
That is not super creative. Like, it's really by the book, and 1 + 1 is always going to be equal to 1, despite all the BS that's going on right now in academia, where they want to make 1 + 1 = 11, which is stupid, in my opinion, which is just not fathomable.
Yeah.
But like I think theology has a very unique, spicy flavor to it that really adds a nice taste to any academic endeavor. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I think it would be a good time to call it quits here.
Sure.
So folks, this is Stathi Fokas. I hope hopefully you guys enjoyed episode 6 of Off Bishop Street 2.0 podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really glad that you
it's a pleasure.
gave some of your time to be here.
Of course.
You're officially the longest one thus far, because on average, podcast would be like an hour and a half, an hour and 40, maybe an hour and 15. But yeah, I'm going to try to aim for that 2-hour-ish range. That'd be pretty cool.
That's a good one.
Next in line, folks, is Rhea Romero. She's going to be here tomorrow. You know Rhea, right? She's
no.
also in our MA program.
No.
Never met her?
No.
I've actually, guys, one last thing is I've never actually had a class with Stathi, but I think we have a pretty good potential friendship.
Yes,
that may
absolutely.
ensue, right? This is officially the third time I meet Stathi. Actually,
yeah.
Second time was at the Christmas party a
Yeah.
couple months ago, where we had panettone with everybody. I was
that was great.
Surgically cutting slices of panettone, and Dr. Jameson actually made the joke, Chris, you probably should have been in that line of work. Yeah, I probably should have been a surgeon or a butcher. Anyway, but yeah, so Ray Romero is going to be on tomorrow, and on Thursday I have a treat for you guys. We're going to have Corey Lebrec from U Laval. He was one of the speakers at Theology in the City in the fall.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, he's pretty renowned. They know him very well at McGill University. Recently, he was hosting Father Guy Consolmagno's visit to McGill. Father Guy is actually the director of the Vatican Observatory, so he's a specialist in astronomy.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, Corey Lebrecht was the introductory speaker to him. So yeah, we're gonna have Corey on Thursday. And on that note, guys, stay safe and hopefully you guys enjoyed. Take care. All right, that's a wrap. I actually have to go press the button because it's still recording. But
yeah, of course.
It's all good. Man, you know that feeling when you take off that headset and everything becomes super crisp?
Yeah.